Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're setting the stage for a really fascinating journey into, well, the absolute deepest parts of human behavior. If you've ever found yourself wondering why you react to stress the way you do, or, why some social situations completely drain you while others absolutely fire you up, you're in the right place. We're going to explore the core architecture of what makes you, you. Okay, let's dive right into this. Take a quick second and reflect on your own unique quirks and habits. Why do you lose your temper for absolutely no clear reason sometimes? Or why do you procrastinate on certain things but feel this intense need to meticulously organize your entire desk before you can even think about starting to work? The answers to that, they usually lie hidden right beneath our conscious awareness, deeply rooted in our fundamental personality structures. So to really demystify personality, we actually need to leave behind all those, unscientific internet quizzes. Instead, we're looking at the rigorous, scientifically validated IP and the Big Five model. Now, this is an open source framework grounded in real clinical literature that measures 5 major personality traits. Honestly, it's a profound tool for self-reflection that helps us map out our needs, our boundaries, and our cognitive styles. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to decode your personality using the highly memorable acronym OCEAN. That's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. But real quick, before we begin actually mapping these out, I want to emphasize a really crucial point straight from our source material. Quote, scores and descriptions can only approximate an individual's actual personality. Personality exists on a spectrum, right? There are absolutely no good or bad scores here. What we're looking at is basically just a roadmap to self-knowledge, helping you figure out your own unique tools and tendencies.
All right, Section 1. O for openness to experience. Openness focuses heavily on our cognitive styles, our curiosity, and our willingness to entertain totally new ideas. It's built on 6 specific subdomains. You've got imagination, artistic interests, and emotionality on one side, paired up with adventurousness, intellect, and liberalism on the other. So it's not just about, say, liking art, it's actually about your access to your own feelings, how eagerly you break your routine, and your facility for thinking in symbols or complex abstractions. And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world behavioral differences. If you score low here, you're likely seen as down-to-earth, practical, and conservative. You strongly prefer the plain, straightforward, obvious facts. But if you score high, you love novelty, variety, and change. You're deeply curious, highly imaginative, and you absolutely thrive on exploring complex, maybe even ambiguous ideas.
Now, you might assume that being open is just inherently better or more mature, but check this out. Here is a really surprising fact from the research to counter that bias. Closed thinking, meaning low openness, is actually related to superior job performance in fields like police work, sales, and a number of service occupations, where practical, concrete, and straightforward approaches are literally vital. Okay, moving on to Section 2, C for conscientiousness. This dimension is all about how we regulate, control, and direct our impulses. What exactly makes up that diligence and thoroughness? Well, it's self-efficacy, orderliness, and dutifulness, combined with achievement striving, self-discipline, and cautiousness. Think of this basically as the engine of your willpower. It's your ability to consider future consequences before acting on a short-term urge. When we contrast the two ends of this spectrum, it's pretty fascinating. A low score means you basically live for the moment. Your work might be a bit scattered, sure, but you act spontaneously, which makes you colorful, zany, and honestly, a lot of fun to be around. A high score, on the flip side, means you are incredibly reliable, hardworking, and highly successful at reaching your goals. However, that intense drive, it can sometimes manifest as stuffy, workaholic, or even compulsively perfectionistic behavior.
Section 3. E for extroversion.
Measuring the intensity of our engagement with the outside world, extroversion covers friendliness, gregariousness, and assertiveness, along with activity level, excitement-seeking, and cheerfulness. It's a true measure of how much you enjoy the hustle and bustle, the frequency of your enthusiastic emotions, and how quickly you step up to take the lead in a group setting. Now, it is incredibly important to note here that a low score, an introvert, is not necessarily depressed, shy, or unfriendly. Not at all. They simply have a different baseline for stimulation than an extrovert. An introvert is quiet, deliberate, and just needs a bit less external noise to feel balanced. A high-scoring extrovert, meanwhile, is highly sociable, energetic, action-oriented, and loves drawing attention in groups. Moving right along to Section 4, A
for agreeableness. This trait governs our social harmony through trust, morality, and altruism, as well as cooperation, modesty, and sympathy. It really reflects our underlying optimism about human nature, our belief that people are, deep down, basically honest, decent, and trustworthy, and it shows our genuine desire to help those in need. So the crucial point here is how this actually plays out in social dynamics. High scorers are incredibly considerate, friendly, generous, and they're always willing to compromise their own interests for the good of the group. Low scorers, the more disagreeable individuals, are tough and critical. They place their own self-interest above getting along with others, and, well, they can be quite uncompromising.
But wait, before we judge those disagreeable people too harshly, look at this. Agreeableness is actually not useful in situations that require absolute, objective decisions. Disagreeable people, precisely because they aren't swayed by a need to keep the peace, can make excellent scientists, critics, or soldiers. Once again, this proves that low scores are incredibly useful depending on the environment you're in.
And finally, Section 5, N for neuroticism. Revolving around our tendency to experience negative emotions, neuroticism unpacks into anxiety, anger, depression, self-consciousness, immoderation, and vulnerability. Basically, it measures how easily your brain's fight or flight system is triggered by the completely normal demands of living.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how emotional reactivity shapes our interpretation of the world. High scorers react intensely to events that simply wouldn't affect most people, often interpreting ordinary frustrations as hopelessly difficult threats. Low scorers, on the other hand, are exceptionally calm, composed, and unflappable. But remember, actually scratch that. Just keep in mind that a low score here just means freedom from persistent negative feelings. It doesn't automatically guarantee high positive feelings. That actually comes from extroversion. As we wrap up this mapping of the Big Five, I want to bring us back to this foundational truth. A particular level on any given trait will be helpful for accomplishing some things and completely detrimental for others. Understanding your openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism isn't an exercise in judgment. It's about clearly recognizing the unique tools you possess so you can better navigate your environment.
I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Look at your life right now. Which part of your ocean is currently at the wheel? Is your high conscientiousness driving you straight to burnout, or is your low openness keeping you stuck in a rut? Because self-knowledge is power. Once you know what's driving you, you can finally decide if it's taking you exactly where you want to go. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.